All right, thanks all for joining. This is Bitcoin Design Guide Jam session number 50. We're the last 4 survivors of the last 49 jam sessions, so congratulations to you. And we're actually kind of back here after BTC Prague sucked up all the energy. I think that we can actually get back to the guide a little bit properly. I prepared, I already shared where is it? A notes document earlier in Discord. And I put some discussion points in there. I'll share it again real quick. Those were just briefly looking at the current milestone, which I don't think there's been any progress. Then discussing the savings wallet reference design revision thing, that big mini project. And then the third part was about community resources and tying them all together. There was also a discussion that came up recently. I think both of those could easily be half-hour topics. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, not from my side.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, cool. So let's just briefly look at the milestones here. So, okay, we have 2xStain. He just started a new job, so he's a little bit busy elsewhere, so that's fine. Mo, you had guidelines on how to contribute to the case study. I assume you were just busy with Prague.
Yeah, I'm really ready to dive into that one. Yeah. Let me see. Where is that one in the milestones? Projects, roadmap. Yeah, here it is. So Yashra just commented on the Google document. Yeah, he has commented on the Google document. I pretty much just need to go through those comments from Yashraj. You've commented as well. And then get more feedback. And then, yeah, I think I've asked the community for feedback on this one. I didn't get too much of feedback on this write-up, aside from you and Yashraj. But I don't know, Daniel, maybe if you'd like to take a look as well. I will.
Pav is also good because he created a lot of the contribute section. He might be the person who has just lots of experience with this type of stuff.
All right, I'll shoot it over to him then as well.
Okay, so you're kind of in the feedback session and then turn it into a first draft or work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else in this one?
With the case study one?
Yeah.
I don't know. Not that I can think of. I feel like, yeah, as you said, Prague took up most of the time, so I didn't do anything with this even after I got the feedback. So I feel like I'll get some more feedback this week, and then I will share another copy, and then maybe we can see if we can create a live draft version of it.
Awesome.
I don't know.
No, that sounds solid.
Yeah.
Then the next thing was my task, linking prefixes for managing inter-app payments. Sounds super complicated. I just called it, in my draft here, I just called it wallet selection. That's, you win 10 sats in your favorite Bitcoin game. Somehow you have to claim it, get it into your own wallet. How do you do that from one mobile wallet to another one? Most apps have implemented this wallet selector. You just pick. It's like a very simple UI pattern. I think there's a bit of a deeper dive here that I haven't gotten into. That is, just briefly discussing other options, like using like Nostr Wallet Connect or Web Intents or Safari extensions and maybe some other stuff. So I'd just like to add a little bit of a thing that says, so we have the general problem description. This is a solution, and then other solutions, and they only get you halfway there, or only good in certain situations, but also describing those a little bit. Otherwise, I think this could be good for feedback. And I'm not planning to create any unique screen designs for this. I think we can just make this work based on screenshots we have from other applications. So I think it's pretty straightforward. So feedback on this would also be appreciated.
All right, I'll add that as well. The Google document is just in the link there on the I'm guessing.
I'll just put it. It should be in. I'm pretty sure I have it in the issue itself. I'll also post it in.
Yeah, you've got this first
it's
stuff.
far down.
Yeah,
Far
it
down
is.
in the kind
Beautiful
of
stuff.
draft link.
Yep.
Cool. And then so the two big things. Which one do you want to start with? Community resources or savings wallet revision? Any preference?
No preferences.
Okay.
No, I mean, some of the people that maybe are touched by the community projects aren't here. So, I mean, we can definitely talk about it and should, but, you know, maybe we should start with the savings one. I'm easy though, doesn't matter.
Okay. So we've already had discussions around the savings wallet reference design here, going back to August. What I did from on one of our previous Google Docs, and this is also linked from the notes document that you have, is I tried to summarize things from various threads. So I described what we have today. We have the savings wallet that's meant for a single person. That's a 2 of 3 multi-sig, where one key is on the device, one's on a hardware wallet, and one's held by a third-party service provider. Then we have the upgradable wallet reference design and shared wallet reference design. Those two have not been touched for at least 1 or 2 years. They're a little bit less fresh detailed than the savings wallet. And then the big question was, well, so various topics have come up around this. One simple one is managing multiple wallets, archiving old wallets and still getting notifications when, let's say, a surprise transaction comes in. If you have in your app one application, you have a daily spending, a savings, a cold storage. You have a key in there, which is social recovery key for one of your family members. How do you manage all that stuff? Then the topic of social recovery. So, you know, Daniel, you have a wallet, but you want Mo and I and Daniel to have keys to restore it. What are the options there? And I put inheritance UX as a special case of social recovery in case the person goes away. But that person does not want to recover it for them. You're recovering it for them with other people, maybe in a manner where you didn't even know that's coming up on you. And I don't know. It doesn't have, it can be separate, but I just grouped it here. And then expanding on the progressive security aspect. And I think all of these things are tied together because of these extra technologies that we have, specifically the complex spending conditions. So we're essentially taking the savings wallet being a single player thing to being a multiplayer thing and using the different tech available for different scenarios. So complex spending conditions has been asked by the Liana team has brought this up. The BDK team has brought this up. So it's stuff like, you know, I have my own savings wallet, but within it, I give you guys keys, but you can't, those keys only become usable after a year, right? So in case I die after a year, you can take my keys. Or let's say, and I listened to a podcast about inheritance that was interesting, and the guy called it ruling from the grave. He's described the scenario where currently outside of Bitcoin, if let's say I die and I give money to my kids, or my wife or everyone, and in the document it says, well, every year they should get this much. Well, they can sue, right? And then there can be the court can overrule this, and the money they can take the money and whatnot. But if it's actually tied on the Bitcoin blockchain, that you know only after 1, 2, 3, 5 years that these funds will become unlockable, and you know that's no one can change that, right? So there's interesting stuff happening, and he called it ruling from the grave, which I thought was just a pretty funny way to put it. So just exploring this stuff. Key rotation is, I think, is interesting, maybe not in the inheritance sense, but let's say social recovery potentially. So two of you have maybe keys, and if I lose my key, you help me rotate in a new one or something. Right? Maybe that's like a small to medium amount of funds, maybe not my long-term savings or so. So, okay, let me share this document real quick. So and then there's music, which I don't think it changed that much. It's a multi-sig scheme that reduces the on-chain footprint because you only have a single signature on there. I think there's a lot of kind of the clients negotiate with each other. So these technical things, to me, and maybe you have other ideas or thoughts, or maybe it doesn't make sense, whatever. That's kind of how I mentally put it together for myself. We have these technology or technical capabilities, and we figure out how people could, what products can be built with them for these type of social scenarios. And then at the bottom of the page, I just loosely went over trying to figure out like roughly what could a table of contents look like. And didn't get super far with that one. And then the second thing I put together, which I'll put up in my background here, and the link is also in the notes document. I just took screenshots of our current savings, upgradable, and shared wallet pages, because those would be the ones that we touch essentially. So I don't know what do you make of all this stuff?
How do you, is this just to kind of make a comparison to what we have today? What do you feel is the biggest gap from what we have today to kind of something that is more a more up-to-date base for many of these other things we could do?
So I think
haven't looked at it for a while.
Yeah. So I don't think we have anything about Miniscript in there, which is the complex spending condition stuff that both BDK and the Liana people talked about. Key recovery, we mentioned kind of loosely how it could work, but we don't actually mention Frost or the technology side. That could be a whole how it works type of deal. And I do feel like we're missing on this whole social key management, whether it's for business, for inheritance, for friends helping friends, or something else. That whole dimension, because the savings wallet itself is also single player. It's just you doing your own thing.
Yeah. So I'm wondering. Sorry, let me just finish this thought. I'll pass it over. So I'm wondering if, because a lot of these things, right? There's many possibilities, but it feels like there is some kind of core that if someone is building a savings wallet or any kind of multi-key wallet, basically, there's a core of things that has to be there, and then there are kind of added things that you could build if you wanted to, like the advanced spending rules and the social recovery things, but they're not necessarily required by every wallet. So I'm wondering if we can update to a point where we have sort of the base platform, if you like, of the wallet, and then we have these kind of extra add-ons as kind of almost standalone pages. Is that what you're thinking as well? Or?
Yeah, exactly. And one extra thing is that Michael, he I don't know if it's official or not, but I guess it is. He will spend the next year looking into inheritance. So that'll be a huge research topic for him. So so there'll be a big part that will also contribute here. But yeah, I think the daily spending wallet, it has send, it has receive, it has settings. We don't need to recreate that again with slight variations. We can just focus. We can have this really solid base savings wallet, which I feel like a lot of it we already have. And then we create these, like you said, variations or add-ons or so. Like here's a variation of the savings wallet that is this or that. Right? Let's describe the differences and pull out the unique user flows for this product. Like
Steven,
receiving and yeah. receiving and generating an address that's already covered in other places. We don't need to do that, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I don't think, in terms of Miniscript, probably don't need to worry too much about the exact technology of it, because it's a developer tool, right? So, I think a lot of teams working with many these kinds of ruling from the grave kinds of things, they're working with Miniscript because that's the best tool for the job right now. But at the end of the day, it's basically just a way. It basically compiles down into Bitcoin script. It's just kind of a better way of writing Bitcoin script, more complicated stuff that prevents you from kind of foot gunning yourself. So it was just like a minor point that maybe mention Miniscript. We don't need to go into too much detail about Miniscript because in 5 years there could be another better way of writing these complex spending policies and all of that. So it's more just from a user perspective to me, just the fact that we now have a way of building these more complicated types of policies regardless of how it's actually built.
Yeah, see, that I didn't even know that was just it compiles down to Bitcoin script. Like some of it is also just about clarifying some of these terms. So when we hear them and use them, that we have simple framing and for them.
Again, it might be coming at this and not so much from the tech angle, right, but more from the user scenario angle, right? It is interesting, I think, to have a savings wallet that could potentially have, spending limits per month or, some kind of extra safety stuff. So, having a page that talks about the possibilities of this in terms of the actual user needs, which can then mention, briefly that there exists technologies to do this, and they're called X and Y. We don't explain them in detail here, but someone that's interested can find out okay, let me go have a look. And then as things mature, maybe we can include more. But at the moment, it feels like we can only sort of hint at what's possible and promote what the wallet would do for the user, right? I think the same is probably true with inheritance and all those things.
No, for sure. We may have to get into it to a certain point because digging into it a little bit may show us some of the limitations that we have to consider, and it might also show us opportunities that we did not consider just out of our own thoughts. Right?
Also, I'm looking at here for the how it works one. It feels like the complex spending conditions with BDK and Liana also looking into it at the same time. I think it seems to be one that's coming up more, and that teams want to know more about it. So that feels like a very good one. The complex spending conditions. I don't know how that would look, but I'm just thinking out loud.
But Daniel, I think you worked on the upgradable and shared wallets, and I think the format where the top part just talks about this is the scenario, we could consider this one or that one, but can we consider this here is the best solution, and this is what we're exploring with this on this page or so. So something along those lines is a good way to a good entry point. And then the technology becomes second. And in order to do this, to make people happy, we use this and this technology in this way. And then you talk about the user experience.
Yeah, the upgradable path is interesting, right? At some point, I don't really think ideally, it shouldn't be like a different model. Ideally, it should be that the daily wallet we've been talking about and have outlined in the reference design could maybe become the savings wallet, if you like. I'm not sure, actually. I have to think more about that, but I haven't thought about that whole thing for a while. But it would be good if maybe when we know a bit more about how the savings wallets evolved, we could think through if there is a straightforward path from, or even you know, like how you have your bank or your institution that you deal with today, right? Like quite often people have a current account or spending account and a savings account with the same institution. So I wonder if there's a way where if you have the daily wallet, you can kind of add a savings account. It's not like you replace the whole wallet. It's like, you know, you can kind of create something that is one key in that savings account from the daily. Anyway,
Yeah, no,
someone more about
someone also someone asked in Discord, I think, whether upgrading also requires whether there are fees involved or anything, or if you can just kind of change it and you know it's just changed, right? And I think with Frost that may be possible, where you can change the number of keys without doing an on-chain thing. But I think there is some assumptions that the person that the other keys are really destroyed or unrecoverable. There's something in there. But I think just clarifying some of this stuff and with Frost seeing if there's a bit more flexibility specifically for this upgrade path that could be a topic to research. I don't know if that takes a really long time or if it's just a matter of like watching a YouTube video for half an hour where someone explains it and then just writing it. Right? That's unknown. But yeah, I think there are all kinds of interesting configurations and stuff that we can explore and then try to put together and behind common use cases.
So at least vaguely on topic, you know, the Block just released or made a statement that their beta version of their sort of multi-sig wallet is ready to be tested. I signed up. I'm not sure if I'll get through the door, but I mean, it would be really interesting to dig into how they've architected this whole thing and if there's anything we can learn from that for the savings wallet thing. I think they are kind of promoting theirs as both a spending and, well, a safe spending wallet.
Yep.
Seems to be the way they're promoting it. But anyway, it'd be really interesting to see how they've actually done it.
You know, the interesting with that thing is that some of the nuances of how they designed it may not be obvious unless you get into some scenario where you lost a key and you need to recover it or something. So I guess you get in that beta and just test it all out and lose keys and request them and ask their support and just mess with it. That's what it's for too. Yeah, that'll be a good one. Hopefully one of us can experience it. Okay, and then in more practical terms, how do you want to go about this? I know Michael wants to. He's going to explore the inheritance thing. I think, Stephen, there might be something in there where we could do learning Bitcoin and design sessions around, I don't know, Frost or mini script or I don't know, something where we just kind of wrap our head around the technical side in order for that then to inform the design side. Otherwise, Daniel, remember how we were earlier in at the beginning of the design guide, the way we did it there, we just create up our rough expected table of contents. Everyone just says what pages they want to do, and then everyone just goes off and starts researching individually or in groups, and that could also be a thing. I don't know if you have any preference.
Yeah, no, I was just reading through the current version again, and that's probably where I'm going to start and just sort of make notes of what feels outdated, if anything, and where I feel like me personally have like more questions.
The shared wallet one is an interesting one for me because of what we experienced with the Nunchuck wallet. So I don't know which one of those would be the most relevant. So that would be, we had a 2 of 3 multi-sig, or was that?
So the shared wallet is the one where I have the least clear idea of what use case or scenario we should describe.
Yeah.
Whether it should be. So inheritance is clear, that's inheritance, right? Social recovery, that might be something where it's smaller amounts and maybe between friends. And maybe shared wallet, maybe that is a thing where a group of people handle some type of fund or so. And it's not totally kind of a business application, but it is in that direction. So I don't know, but I think that's a really key thing, that we clarify which
What?
reference design
Yeah.
approaches which scenario with which, so they don't overlap. And there are lots of products there for people to develop if they want to, and it's helpful for them. Yeah, so just, you have edit rights, throw in your
Yeah.
ideas, and I'm sure there's a lot of information out there already.
It's just, I think that after we had the, we've had some user experiences with different multi-sig shared wallets, so trying to sign a key at the same time, that kind of thing, sign a transaction, broadcast it. I think just seeing the experience that we've had so far, I think it would be an interesting one to look at, because I think there's a long way to go there as well.
Yeah, so for context for the others, we had Mo, Bosch, and I had a Nunchuk 2 of 3 multi-sig set up for the Designathon funds. And we had all kinds of problems. Like, I was never able to initiate a transaction. Only Mo could do it, and then I could sign it, which is kind of even when I had tried on my mobile app or on my desktop. Then they have a chat in which messages were sent to each other, where you're supposed to collaborate on this multi-sig. But a lot of times you get a message and it just says encrypted, and that's it. Nothing you can do. Or I tried to recover it on my desktop. I imported the keys, imported the wallet config. Then I realized, oh, I think I can log in with my email or something. I did that. It completely erased everything I had set up. Also not good. And then I tried to, at the end, I tried to create a transaction, export the PSBTs. Mo sent it to you in external channels because the messaging wasn't working that great. And you just couldn't sign it. You pressed sign. It just said, modal popped up for a second, said signing, went away, and that was it. So it was good to have that hands-on experience. It still was possible to manage the funds because Mo could initiate transactions, but that's not really how you want it to work.
That's not the idea.
In the end.
She had written some advanced spending rules before you got there, Crystal.
I did some advanced programming on my side and just blocked all other access.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah.
Mo, the secret, super shadowy, super coder.
Yeah, I think for me, when I have practical hands-on experience with stuff that could be improved, it gives me the feeling of, I wanna find out how we can improve that. So for me, that's the one that's a little bit closest to home at the moment.
Yeah.
Since we used it a few times. But yeah, I'm happy to work on how everyone else wants to work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe just take a look at the document. We'll refine it. Everyone can put in their preferences, and we can collaborate or do solo or whichever is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should we go on to the next topic then?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have anything huge here. That's just, so far this has been the Bitcoin Design Guide Jam session, and it's slowed down recently a little bit, the guide work. But work has picked up elsewhere. Daniel's doing BDG wallet. Colin is doing the ETA wallet. Other people have started individual libraries. Like someone, I forgot the name. Someone did a separate Flutter icon package. Someone else contacted me about OMG 21BTC. We had an exchange. He or she wanted to create an icon font from the icons. So it's about like, how do all these resource projects relate to each other? And I think someone asked in Discord about, well, why isn't there an implementation of the daily spending wallet? And some reasons were thrown out. And the question is then, do we extend this jam session to be a community resource session? And do we try to tie it all more closely together? What do you think?
Yeah, I think personally, it seems like there's now more people and a bit more momentum and therefore a bit more overlap. So for example, it's only in the last week or two that I've become aware of, at least one other person working on Flutter sort of implementations of the UI kit, which is awesome. But before, coordination wasn't the problem because there was only one person working on each thing. So it's so new that I haven't really established kind of a working relationship here. But me and I think it's Aniki. I have to check it out. But we basically have, just in the last days, each submitted one PR on each other's projects. So I think the next step is to figure out, like, okay, how can we sort of join forces here? And I think both of us are very keen to do that. It makes no sense that there are two versions. So I think the next step is probably me reaching out to him to set up a call. And I would love for him, if it becomes a thing, right, like for him to join these calls in the future. Even if everything is not UIKit related or Flutter related, he probably will benefit from hearing everything else we're talking about. So that's an action item for me, reaching out to him and setting up kind of a working process for that particular project. And who knows, maybe he then is interested in collaborating on the BDG wallet, the Flutter version, which, at the moment I'm pushing to the Flutter and the Swift version forward a little bit as the underlying packages mature, right? They're both based on LDK Node, but they're like still pre-release a little bit. So that's why I jump back and forth. So yeah, I don't yet have a process in mind, but I will just work with him on that and then share here or try and bring him in.
Mo, how do you think about the tying it all together with the research kit?
Yeah, I think that's go ahead, Christoph.
I was just saying it's also a community resource. It's all it's not all super tightly connected, but it is connected and it builds on each other. So
I wanted to ask you guys, and this is tying in with your question. I see a lot of the domain names have been XYZ. So I've also purchased the domain name bitcoinresearch.xyz. So I was thinking of putting the research toolkit on there, which hopefully I can manage on my own. But yeah, I think it would be good to tie in the UX research toolkit to the guide. I feel like now all the links are in there. I feel there's a little bit of tidying up to do with the actual website design itself. But I feel like I could definitely look at the guide, or maybe start with look at the UX research toolkit and try to think about what is this related to in the guide, and maybe just brainstorm on that and then share it with the community. Ask you guys where you think it might link up in the guide. Well, I would have no idea at this point, but I think that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have any idea at this point. Maybe you guys have some ideas, but I really wouldn't know.
Yeah, there are some obvious points like the personas page or getting to know your users page.
Yeah,
pretty clear ones. And other ones that are less clear. But yeah, Stephen, what do you think of this whole? Or Yashraj, what do you make of this whole idea? If you can't speak, I'm busy elsewhere.
Go for it. I mean, it's like I don't have too strong opinions on it one way or the other. The momentum has slowed down, and the thing is that when the design community started, it was like there wasn't a lot of this. There wasn't a design guide, obviously. Now there is a design guide, and I think that like the whole conversation around UX and Bitcoin has definitely increased since then. It's gotten a lot more visibility for designers working in the space. So it may be a situation where like the design guide stuff isn't as in demand right now. Like it might be that this kind of like tooling and all of that is kind of what's more needed right now. I feel like, again, we'd have no way of knowing, but I feel like when I talk to people, at least, that like when they go to the guide, they're like looking for specific things, you know, like units and symbols page or backup or whatever. They're looking for specific things and not necessarily full on ref design. So anyways, long-winded way of saying, I think that maybe we just should think of like icons and UIKit and research toolkit and all that as like, maybe that's what's needed more right now. So if people are excited about working on these things, then why not create a space in the community for people to be able to discuss these projects? And it could be this call, it could be another call, but if that's what people want to work on, then let's talk about it.
Yeah, it also shouldn't just be calls, right? Because a lot of people can't make them. Yeah. The interesting question for me was why is there no reference implementation for this? And in my head was like, well, it's a design community. We started from the design use case there or mentality, and there were already so many developers out there. And it's natural that we are less inclined to build this thing out. We need to, it requires all the different groups to come together to build a solid project. And kudos to Daniel for attacking it from both sides. And the question for me was then also, would there be enough capacity, momentum, interest, whatever it may be, that's needed to actually maintain a full-on wallet code? Because if you do and people use it for money, you also have to make sure that it's secure and all that. So I just don't know, as an official, not official, whatever, that I would be comfortable myself taking on a project like that.
Yeah, I agree. And I just responded to the person that asked the question in general, that started a thread there, saying, well, I think the reason that there hasn't been one before is that the guide is fairly new and it takes a long time to build a wallet. It's getting easier, but all the wallets out there, they've been building for a long time, pre the guide. And there are now several projects working on implementing the reference design. There's my BDG stuff, there's the ETA wallet, there's Connor's Umlando thing, all in different languages, right? And that's great. But the particular goal of BDG was never to launch a product that people can download in the app stores. It is to provide like a as close to ready to go production worthy project as possible for someone who actually do want to run a wallet. Because I agree, like running a wallet in production, providing a service, providing a product, that's a huge, taking on a lot of responsibility that is completely different from providing an example project. So yeah, for the moment, my goal is not at all to launch a product that becomes any official wallet of the Bitcoin design community. Right? I don't think any of us have that ambition. It's more about supporting as many wallets to launch as possible, and then let the kind of competition sort itself out, or the people who want to run those as businesses or as free open source services, that's great, but
yeah,
not for me right now.
So going to what Colin said was that he built this by himself, kind of quietly, and then popped up and said he would love for this to be a community project. So there is a intent that this should not just be his, but it should. And then, well, what does it mean to be a community project? Does that mean that there's kind of a reference implementation or so? And if people use it, because we can decide in the design guide, do we say at the bottom, here are the reference implementations of this, feel free to use them, or feel free to use them to build your own wallet, or do we want to mention them at all, or in which way?
Yeah, I have a view on that, which is, and it's partly why, I created a new organization for my code that is not living under my personal GitHub repo, right? It's BTG Wallet, super bad name, but like it comes from the Bitcoin design guide. And my idea was if it ever reaches a point where it is mature and good and, you know, not just looked at by me, it could be a good repo for these reference designs. And of course, people want them in different languages. So I think if, for example, I think the ETA wallet is written in React Native, right? I don't see a problem with if things become mature and there are, you know, people have vetted them and say, yeah, this is a good implementation. I have no problem kind of as a community member standing behind a whole group of these things. But that's a good step, I think. And then, you know, actually launching a project that people can download in the App Store, that's a different thing where you need the support, you know, you need support, you need bug working, you know, that's a different level.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am happy, you know, we get to similar probably issue with the Bitcoin UI kit, right? When you have now, okay, here's a Swift implementation, here's a Flutter one, here's a whatever, right? But then the next level also of coordination is to coordinate the kind of API, if you want, or the implementation. Like if you go from one language to the other, you should expect them to work in a similar way and kind of produce more or less the same results as some sort of quality bar and usability bar. And that's at the moment, since everything's been done by different people, I think that work has not been done. So that's something to consider as well. There's going to be a little bit more overhead there, but we want to get to that level, I think. So if someone lands on the Bitcoin UI kit website and says, oh, I'm building something in React Native, I'll go and take this package and it's going to behave well.
I feel it's also a little bit of like that proof of work, because one of the comments that we got when we interviewed people about the guide was they were like, well, I want to see where all of these resources are being used. Like, I'd love to see projects that this is being used in. So one of the ideas I had, and I have it on my future to do, is with ETA Wallet, because he made use of so many of the resources, it would be great to put that together to show other builders how he put all the resources together to create what he did. Because I think that's like, I don't know, I don't think if we have anything like that yet, but just showing other builders, like if you use this one, and this one, then you bake your cake, and that's what that's what comes out, kind of thing. So not like a case, yeah, kind of like a case study, but also like a case study / how to. Here's how he did it, and if you want to do the same, you can do this.
So we could have in the daily spending wallet a subpage, for example, that says implementing this stuff, and then potentially give both BDG wallet and ETA wallet as examples. Like, these are two projects that are trying to do this. They're going about it this way. They're focusing on this, but not on that. And then maybe that's another good starting point for developers then, if they want to. Because right now there's nothing in the guide about these projects, and it might. But if somebody finds these starting points, maybe they're just really happy and willing to contribute, where it doesn't feel like they have to start it on their own.
Because we met someone at the I met someone at the conference as well, and he was like, yeah, I want to build a wallet. He was really keen on building a wallet, but he said, I'm not I have no experience. So I was like, yeah, join the community. So I think for someone like that, if you kind of have this like, oh, here, he's done this, and these are the resources he used, it just kind of empowers him to also be able to, piece the pieces together himself and see if he can figure it out. And build the same.
I've made a note to myself to reach out to, is it Colin who works on ETA Wallet?
Yeah.
Because there's one useful thing for both me and him and anyone else trying to implement the reference design, I think, is to kind of do light code review, even though it might not be deep, because I've never worked in React Native, so I'm not going to go into that, but it's more about the architecture and, like discussing like, okay, show me how you do key backup, or, what's going on with the keys and those sort of things, and kind of maybe helping each other take a similar approach to the onboarding flow and what actually happens under the hood, so that if someone, again, like if we want these to mature to a similar state, that regardless of the language someone picks, they will get reasonably similar architecture in terms of the security and whatnot.
I think it would be super cool to just get the daily spending wallet and have it download or side loadable as an APK or something like that. And then in the future, I know Europe is trying to force Apple to open up the App Store for side loading and alternate app stores. So maybe that's something that would make it much easier to just validate how this feels, how it works. I think it'd be really cool.
I like your idea.
Yeah, and just for the record, I certainly have the ambition to let all of you guys and other people try it in test flight, but that's that doesn't mean I'm going to publish it for anybody. But yeah, it just hasn't reached the stage where I feel comfortable sharing it yet. It's like it basically doesn't work fully. So.
On a very practical term, for me, putting all this stuff together and having one session to go over. So let's say we have this jam session every 2 weeks. We would go over the guide. Whoever is there who works on one of these projects could provide an update. For me, it would be much easier. I've been struggling to project manage the guide, the UI kit, and the icons. So UI kit, I have 2 potential contributors that are interested, but there's not enough structure for them. The icons, like if I could put those together a little bit, it would make my life a lot easier. But I do think for some of the code libraries, we would need, like Daniel, for example, if you were the champion of either BDG or this code library stuff or so, who just looks after things and updates everyone or so, I think that'd be super. You don't have to do it. I'm just throwing it out. That would be super fantastic. And then the jam session could be just kind of the regular touch point for the things.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I'm probably the closest to it, so that it makes a ton of sense. I can't, or I won't sign up to a particular progress cadence, but like, as we all move in this direction, me and whoever works on that, I will try and move it to a more coordinated state.
Awesome. That's super cool. So should we start with a task like putting something in the daily spending or on the projects page about these code libraries? Is that a good first task, or are we not there yet?
No, I think we can certainly mention them as works in progress. I mean, they are much better than starting from zero for those who want to learn. And I always try to make my README files have some value. So even just finding that code might move someone along quite a bit, even if it's not finished.
Yeah, I like the idea of having an maybe a sub page called implementations, because then ETA Wallet could go under there, and also BDG as well. I think those would be really nice to see practical things of where stuff in the guide has been used and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think from we'd have to. It would be good then if we create a little bit of momentum around it too. Once that's up, we put in a newsletter. We talk about it in community call, Twitter, Nostr. On Twitter, like inform all the bots about what's going on.
Yeah,
important.
It would kind of be like as practical as just kind of getting from speaking with, just kind of sitting down with Colin and just asking him how he built everything, and just having him tell a bit of a story, and then him letting us know which resources he used, and then just tell a story really, and then anyone else can follow the same story and also build the same.
Yeah, I asked him. I gave Colin some resources, and one of them was Connor with his Bitcoin Developers podcast, video podcast, Twitch stream, whatever it's called. Yeah. And that might be a great forum for him to just go over the project and then show, because Connor likes to get really hands-on in those sessions. I don't know if they decided to do it or not, but I think that would be a cool one. We have these outlets.
Yep.
Just need to use them. I had 4 minutes left, so we have some really, really big plans here.
I have my own to-do. I wrote down here, comment on the shared wallet scenario. What would that look like? Make it very practical. So that's my to-do. And then the also other to-do is message Pav and ask for some feedback on the contribute case study to Bitcoin Design Guide write-up.
Yeah, I had it in my priority list to wrap up this wallet selector page. I feel like this wallet management would also be a fairly good one to just like a separate case study or reference design or so, managing multiple wallets in one application. But I did put it in my list to also tackle the complex spending condition stuff. But I don't know, that might be a little bit too early.
I think it's the right time in terms of user need and use cases. You know, when at the conference in London earlier this year, there were some talks around Miniscript and covenants, which I think falls somewhat in the same department where you can outline rules and stuff. But as a listener, you know, someone who's very interested in the use cases, it was very deep, right? Like it was very technical still. And the few user interfaces I saw, they were hard to use. It's definitely like code coming up of the ground and like, okay, we just need an input field here. So, you know, it's probably the right time to kind of lead the way, but it might be too early in terms of people building on what you're doing tomorrow. I don't know if that helps at all, but like I remember listening to those talks, it's like, wow, this is really deep, and like trying to find the use cases rather than like going the other way around.
Yeah, it is. I think the thing that I don't know quite yet is that I guess this might be a good thing where we do a community resource gathering around this stuff, and then the things will crystallize from it. But yeah, I always have to think of Alien Covenant when I hear covenants. It's like such a weird term. It's like what
yeah,
what,
I
what
love
do
how
you
people come up with these like you know, really alien sounding terms. And
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just like a limit. You can't spend more in that.
Yeah. It's like a
I don't know
temple
if that's
with
completely
egg
true.
in it. On the foreign
Yeah.
planet.
I think we as a group have to be the counterweight to the desire to create complicated words.
Yeah.
We have to be the ones who put simple words on these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But how
I
about
wouldn't don't feel like, you know, this is top of your list. I think, you know, like it feels like something that's nice to do, but I don't think too many people are hanging around our Discord waiting for these things to emerge.
No, I feel like this is just generally a good conversation topic to kind of just start throwing around a bit and do a little bit of research. Maybe there's some videos around there that already explain it well, and then just see where that takes us. I'm really interested in that topic, but we'll see. Okay. Any other thoughts? We're at the hour here.
No.
I was just going to ask you a quick question, if and maybe Stephen knows most about this. Like, what's the current state of the Bolt 12 world? Is there like a one sentence? Like, has anything progressed in the last 3 months or so? Are we closer to adoption, or anything still being waited to?
No, we still need, you know, more implementations to support it. The ones I think that would be farthest along right now would be Core Lightning. It's existed in their kind of experimental features for a while, but LDK is working on it. Eclair is working on it. So it's just more of a question of, you know, when the engineers on those projects feel it's, you know, appropriate to ship, or when it's ready. On the L&D side, obviously the most important Lightning implementation, Carla Kirk-Cohen and Alyssa are working on some they're working on this thing called LNDK. It's like a daemon that runs alongside your LND node and gives it the ability. When they're done with it, it's eventually going to give you the ability to pay Bolt 12 offers from LND. So long story short, the implementations are all still working on it. So the next kind of phase in the roadmap for it, I think, is that, you know, one, you get more implementations, start launching support at some point this year, and then wallets can start following suit once the Lightning implementation support it.
Thank you. That's about my understanding then. Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot will change once that's broadly supported? I mean,
Well, I would hope so.
So what will change?
Well, I mean, for one thing, we would, you know, there's going to be a little bit of an intermediate chaotic period, right, where some wallets support Bolt 12 and some don't. But setting that aside, you know, in the future, you know, hopefully in the next year or two here, we're going to get to the point where I think if enough wallets support it, then you can stop generating Bolt 11 QR codes. So that's one super cool thing. You no longer have to generate a fresh Lightning invoice every time you want to pay somebody. So your wallet could just generate a single Bolt 12. So then think about, what does that mean from a UX pattern? What does that mean from a design pattern? I have some Figma mockups I can send you, but the basic gist is that, like, maybe we stop thinking about the receive flows as being these like unique things. Like every single time I want to receive something, it's like this brand new invoice I'm creating. And maybe we think of it, it's like, well, it's my payment code. So I'm starting it for the wallet, and then it's like, hey, you want to receive Bitcoin? Okay, here's your payment code. And you can share this payment code with anybody that you want to pay you. And that could be like a QR code, or it could be, maybe it's the kind of thing too that you publish in your Nostr profile. Like you publish your Bolt 12 offer in your Nostr profile. But you don't have to show this to the user like it's a complicated string of letters and numbers, right? It can just be a piece of metadata that gets embedded in your Nostr profile. And then when I go to, you know, your Nostr profile, Christoph, it's like, you know, tap here to pay Christoph. Under the hood, it's using Bolt 12 to pay. But really, I'm just tapping a tip Christoph button in the Nostr profile. Or imagine that we had something that was structurally very similar to Lightning address. But what it's doing is it's just, instead of, you know, putting an LN URL server every single time you want to pay somebody, you know, it's just like you have on your website, you know, a little thing with your Bolt 12 offer published there. My wallet can look you up. When I type in your email address, it looks you up, fetches your offer. And then from that point on, under the hood, the wallet is just paying against your offer every time. But I'm not having to do a lookup on you every single time. Was that helpful, or was that too much information?
No, it was. I'm just trying to think through the details. So the contact list becomes more important because it's less about time-based or expiring invoice generation, unless you want to, because you want to have like a specific description or something in there. I guess something I'm also wondering is, with LN URL, it's easy to just ping a web server for information.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same with Bolt 12? If you need to ping a Lightning node to generate invoices or not? If it's a simple swap replacement, or if there's more complexity?
Yeah, that's basically what's happening, is that instead of going through web servers, it's like the Lightning nodes are talking to each other directly. Yeah. So if you have a Bolt 12 offer that you made from, you know, your Lightning node, then my Lightning node talks to your node, and they sort it all out. Yeah. I can send you some presentations and stuff I've done on this, and some UI flows that might be helpful for you. But so it's a long path, right, to get there. Like the next big thing after Bolt 12 offers is async payments.